Hello, welcome Delvers to the Vaults Remastered. Are you like me? You have a 5e game that you just said bye-bye to, and you have gotten your hands upon, or considering getting your hands upon, the new remastered versions of Pathfinder's core rulebook, the GM core and the player core? Well, if so, then hey, I'm inviting you to come along today and check out how you can use those rules in the GM core to create not the whole world, because I've already got that pretty much, I don't say locked down, but I've got that kind of done. But instead, what I want to do, I want to zoom in and nation build. I want to explore regions of my game world, these vaults, these subterranean pancake stack of caverns that goes ever deeper into the bowels of the earth. And I want to unveil the jeweled depths. I want to create two realms, one called Prismar and one the other one called the Luminar Nexus, both of which I introduced a couple 3 weeks ago in my video about Kvarca and his mythology, the shimmering pursuit of perfection. Kvarca being one of the primordial entities, one of the gods of my game world. Kvarca, the radiant sovereign of Prismar. He is this entity that is just a gleaming, brilliant, massive, titanic gemstone elemental, if you will. Quite a powerful guy. And he oversees these two realms. So, what I want to do is take the mythology, the lore that I created during that video, and fuse it with the rules, the mechanics of Pathfinder Second Edition, the GM core with nation building. Now, why is it so important that you actually delve into your game world and to the point of getting nation details? Well, there's a few reasons I was thinking about as I was putting this together. I mean, the big one is immersion, right? Your world, your setting, your realms, your cities, whatever. These are the background. They're the whole, story behind the game that is shaping everything, shaping the narrative, the cultures, the characters, all the conflicts, etc. And if you really think about it, it's the main escape that your actual players are going to, right? They're coming to take their characters and enter your world. So you want to have a nice, I don't mean nice like welcoming unicorns and rainbows, but a detailed, fleshed out story. And the setting is a big part of that, where they can actually just forget about whatever else they brought with them that day to your game. The other thing that's really important with your settings that you want to focus on is that they're the identity, right? I mean, your locations in your world are these unique, fun, interesting, exciting places. They're gonna provide the experiences, the challenges to your players. They're gonna bring forth your lore. They're going to be the places that your players are engaging with that lore and coming up with those memorable scenes. Like, if you picture like Indiana Jones, the original one, what was one of the most memorable scenes, if not the most memorable, right? It was that opening scene. He's down in the temple when the boulder's rolling, right? If you can imagine the setting not being that movie would be forgotten already, right? So things like that are super important as you're building your campaign or building your game world. The other thing that's important with your setting is the interactivity of it. You don't want to just make your locations these passive, paintings, right? You kind of describe them and then that's it. They need to be interactive, I think. You have to have them be part of the actual gameplay. So your players are in them, they're immersed in them, they're traveling through them. So there should be stuff they can interact with, explore, discover, get all that lore that you've created in the first place. This is a great avenue to communicate it. And last but not least, your setting's important because those places that your players are entering and exploring, they're going to inspire them. They're going to give them creativity, right? They're going to get the players to do inventing, moves and gameplay and solve problems and how do we cross that chasm, and also having the storytelling element of navigating through them, and how each realm was different and there was intricate things that they had to, maybe cultural stuff they had to know, and certain behaviors they had to avoid. Not just physical stuff, but the whole social and cultural things are really awesome elements that you can bring out in a fleshed out setting. So hey, how are we going to do this, and why is Pathfinder a good place to do this? I mean, you can have a great setting in any game system, D&D or whatever, but with Pathfinder, the thing that I like is that yet again, they have a mechanical system, a set of, not necessarily rules, but just guidelines on what kind of stuff you should be putting into your realms, into your countries, into your nations. And in GM Core on page 137, 167, they have where the main information is that you want to dive into. So if you take a look at, I'll kind of pop over to the my book here. On 137 is where you see the initial information about designing your nations. And a lot of the stuff as you read through this is just kind of should be no brainers. But as I was reading this, there was a lot of things that sort of clicked to me like, oh yeah, yeah, I got to make sure that's true. So they're talking about that, regardless of whatever nation you put in your game, you got to have the bare minimum description, right? What is the concept of that particular country they're in? Is it the country of the undead? Is it like Kvarca's realm of Prismar, where it's this radiant jewel encrusted mineral laden geode that is massive, that has cities in it? And that the details you add beyond that are what's really going to give your story a lot more meat. So you want to get enough that you can put together a stat block, which we'll go back and look at in a second. By the way, Paizo, the stat block for nations is not on page 130. Okay, page 130 does not have information about designing nations. Typo, it should be page 167. You're welcome. If you ever see that in an errata, I said it first. Anyway, so if you look at the nation stat block, there's all kinds of bulleted, details that you want to flesh out. But even beyond that, the interconnectivity is super important. So this paragraph really, I don't want to say spoke to me, but it really, made some things, clearer in my head. Is that when you're building your realms, when you're building your nations, all the different elements, from the stat block or details and description stuff, they need to connect with the history, right? This is why my mythology I mentioned at the beginning for my guy Kvarca and his followers is super important because you want to connect that, with the setting, the history of the place, the land, the history of the people, the relationships of the people with their neighbors and each other. All this stuff is interconnecting and weaving a web that your setting is being drawn, I guess, by that. And then there's other stuff that they're talking about in here, which I'll go back to my little presentation to chat about that. You have these details that your nation descriptions and such that should be to be brought out. So information about how big it is, size, and what's the population, where is it located within your greater realm. What are the hallmarks of culture within that realm? What is the history of it? I have history of my primordial Kavarka, but what about the realm that he lives in? Did he steal it? Did he conquer it? Did he create it? I mean, that's super important information. And then the economy and the politics within those realms. That's really going to be things that your players are going to be interacting with. It could be threatening. It could be enticing. There's all kinds of options you can get here. So if you start to flesh out your realm, taking a look at that stuff is going to be also very important. And then here's the nation stat block that you see on page 167 in the GM core. And it has, all the basic kind of stats you'd see in any sort of stat block. You got the name and the traits and description. But then the details, here's what I'm talking about that is different, I think, with Pathfinder versus, let's say, D&D. You're not going to find this level of detail in at least DM and the DM's guide of in D&D. I mean, think about it, right? You should have a government in this realm. I guess it could be anarchy. What's the capital city, the main settlement? That's going to give a location, perhaps, for your players to go, your characters to go visit. Population, is it super crowded or is it sparsely populated? What languages are people speaking there? Because maybe one of your characters is from this place and that helps them to figure out what languages they might speak. Or if your party travels to the place and they can't speak the language, that would create some sort of awkward social moments, perhaps. What religions are in the realm? Is it a religion that one of your clerics and your player characters worship, or is, and they go here and it's like the antithesis of this place and its religion? That could lead to conflicts, right? or maybe it's a place where they can go find support because there's a temple to your cleric's god is there, right? That could be something useful. Then you've got, some of the economic stuff, the exports and the imports. That's critical information, especially if you're trying to think about like downtime, where you need to go craft or shopping or whatever else it is. Or maybe it gives you and your players ideas about how to, you know, harvest some things out on an adventure or find some things in a dungeon and then, consider whether or not it would be worth selling or keeping or whatever. Having an idea of what is economically viable in the region would be useful. Allies and enemies, similar kind of idea. You're entering this world. You should know who are the good guys, bad guys within the area you're traveling, because you don't want to, say something perhaps to the wrong person, or you don't want to be the enemy walking into this foreign place, and you immediately are arrested. So knowing who might be your friends, or who are at least the friends of the rulers and the leaders of that country, would be very important. Factions is another huge area. It's one of my favorite areas to explore. What are the organizations within these realms, and can your PCs be tied to them through their backgrounds, their professions, maybe their class, maybe there's quests involved with these factions, maybe there's threats, right? That's the next one. Threats, not just factions could be a threats, but what about geological threats or natural disasters, especially in the not the under, the Darklands, right? This vaults realm that I've got, cave-ins and earthquakes could be extremely threatening. And I'm thinking just being near the lunar nexus, Prismar would be in danger, just given the amount of energy that surges through that place. And last but not least, I already have an idea of what NPCs are there, at least a couple of them, but this stat block here really spells out that you want to make sure you know who the movers and shakers are in your realm that you're creating. So there's a lot of stuff here that, as a GM, you're going, man, I got to create all this stuff, and where do I start? What do I do? I have all these bullets I want to hit, but how do I hit them? Well, for me, I'm going to go and tap into that mythology. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can chat with one of my NPCs that I've discussed the lore and history of Prismar, Kvarca, and the Luminar Nexus a few times now. So I'm going to go ahead, queue him up, and get some info that I'm going to use to help you all understand how I'm going to take my world of Prismar and use this stat block in order to flesh out a living, breathing realm that my players can explore. Be right back.
You seek to enter the resplendent realm of my unblemished lord, Kvarca. Prepare yourself, child, for the dominion of Prismar is a realm of unmatched splendor, a vast underground expanse where the magnificence of crystalline structures is not merely a natural phenomenon, but the very essence of creation itself. Governed by Kvarca, the radiant sovereign, Prismar is a testament to the elemental forces of earth and radiance, a place where the pursuit of perfection is not just an aspiration, but the foundation of existence. At the core of the shimmering domain is Kvarca, the crystal city of limitless wealth and breathtaking beauty. Here, gemstone spires reach towards the hidden crests of the subterranean sky, and the streets are paved with precious minerals, each reflecting Kvarca's unblemished rule. The Grand Jewel's Tier Palace, constructed from a mosaic of the rarest gems, stands as a beacon of Kvarca's might, housing free-floating sentient stones that whisper the secrets of millennia. Deep within Jewel's Tier lies the Gem Core, a chamber of such crystalline wonder that it seems to pulse with the lifeblood of the realm itself. It is here that Kvarca, draped in his own luminance fractured by past conflicts, taps into the primal energies of the earth, seeking to mend his shattered visage with the potent luminaire essence. Beyond the majesty of Kvarca, the crystal caverns of Eclipsion sprawl in a labyrinthine embrace, guarding treasures untold. It is rumored that within these caverns lies a smaller vault holding an artifact of divine healing, a testament to Kvarca's enduring quest for restoration and power. Prismatica, suspended like a drop of incandescence from the ceiling of Prismar, is a metropolis rivaling the capital in splendor, where commerce and artistry intermingle under the watchful gaze of crystalline guardians. The city thrives on the trade of gemstones, serving as a hub for merchants, artisans, and those seeking the knowledge only the depths can provide. In the remote reaches, the glimmering grotto offers solace, its underground rivers flowing like liquid light through caves studded with radiant gems, a sanctuary for reflection and respite from the eternal pursuit of perfection. This is a domain where every element is infused with Kvarca's influence, from the shard forests rising up the slopes of the mica mountains to the molten mines, a stark reminder of rebellion quelled and ambition punished. Yet, for all its beauty, Prismar is a realm caught between the splendor of creation and the shadow of vanity. Kvarca's obsession with flawlessness not only shapes the land but also the lives within it, driving him to extremes that see resources poured into the grand project of Sedai Pernata. His followers, drawn by the allure of his wealth and the promise of shared divinity, navigate a world where to be imperfect is to be unseen. Prismar, thus, is not merely a collection of locales and legends but a living narrative of ambition, beauty, and the delicate balance between the two, a realm waiting for the brave to uncover its secrets, confront its dangers, and perhaps witness the resurgence of its fractured lord.
So therein lies the challenge. From the game world's perspective, Prismar is this wondrous, magnificent place. How do I take that mythology, that lore, and convert it into a actionable, usable place? That's what I think the nation stat block, the nation building section, and the GM core is really giving you. Again, not tools, but just the concepts and the list here, the bullets of things that, at least bare minimum that you should have in your mind or on your notes or whatever about the realm, so that if and when your players go to a place like this, you're able to give them this lore, give them, things to do, places to explore. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's my challenge. I'm gonna take the lore that my mysterious NPC, who you have yet to officially meet, future video, I promise. I'm going to take that lore and I'm going to use it as the meat that I'm going to put on the bones of this nation stat block. And to do so, I'm going to go and use and get the assistance from my AI muse, Kathy, one more time, ChatGPT. I'm going to take that lore, that mythology, this stat block, and give it to her, feed it to her, so that she can help me take that massive body of information and organize it in a nice, neat stat block like this. So I have a handy reference. So let me go ahead and pull that up, show you how I'm going to do it real quick, and then punch it in. 1 second, be right back. All right, so here you are. I think you're going to like this. I am giving her basic instructions first, right? So here's what I'm telling her. I'm saying I want to create a nation stat block for my game, and let me start you off by giving you the complete mythology. So I took the mythology that I developed in the video I was talking about at the start of this video, the one with Kvarca, the shimmering brilliance there, shimmering something perfection. Sorry, the names escape me. I'm in the zone right now. And I'm going to take all that lore and I just dumped it in here. I just dumped it. It's like 3 pages in my notes. Now, here's the trick though. You got to tell her to hold on. So I say, hey, before you start generating ideas, let me provide you with Pathfinder 2nd Edition's new remastered rules, the ones we were just looking at, for creating nations and nation stat blocks. So let me send this to her. Pow. And while she's thinking about unusual activity from my system, oh my goodness. Well, that's never good. Let me try that again. Hopefully, I'm not too unusual. There you go. Sometimes she glitches. All right, so she's doing some thinking, right? There she goes. Now, what I want to do is while that's percolating, is go ahead and grab the stat block information, the nation building information from Pathfinder rulebook, and throw that in there as a file, as a chaser. 1 second. All right, so here you go. So she responded to my initial mythology dump, saying it was incredibly detailed, imaginative. Thank you, Kathy. And she says, "Hey, I'm ready to go, but before we start, can you give me the Pathfinder Remastered rules for the stat blocks?" Of course I can, Kathy, of course. So I went ahead and snatched that information from the stat block, and I've just dumped that into Kathy, and she, mein Freunds, is spewing. She is going off. But hey, I don't want to give you any spoilers beyond that. If you want to know what Kathy just told me and what my nation stat block for Prismar should look like, go ahead and like, subscribe, put a comment down below. Let me know you're interested in seeing this tome that she is putting out here, and then what I end up doing with it to really flesh out my world of Prismar, as well as the Luminar Nexus, because that is the ultimate goal for what I'm trying to do here. How do you take your lore, your notes about a realm, and use Pathfinder's nation building rules to sit here and create fleshed out, interesting, fun, and cool locations that have a prescription of stats that you can quickly reference on the fly, right? How do you do that? What does it look like? All right. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, go ahead and like the vid, subscribe if you're interested in seeing the final results of what the nations of Prismar and the Luminar Nexus are going to look like. And I will see you in the next video when I take a closer look at another uh, tool within Pathfinder's new GM core, and that's going to be settlement building. We're going to take a run at creating the city of Quartzarum and Prismatica, and a third as of yet unmentioned city, a mysterious location sailing through, shall we say, the vortex of energy swirling through the Luminar Nexus. Until next time, have a good one and peace out.